All right, I think we're ready to get started. I'm Ashley Britton with Herman Miller. Me and my cohort, Kelly Conway Summerall, Kelly's on the line here, are really excited to bring you a new program that will start taking place every other Monday called our Motivational Mondays. Our hope with this is that it's going to be an inspiring and just a positive, fun way to kick off your week. We'll have a variety of different speakers as we move through these weeks with different content that we hope you find engaging and relevant. This morning, we're really excited to have Dr. Melissa Steach on the line with us. Melissa is my colleague and my former mentor at Herman Miller. She is an industrial organizational psychologist, which means that she's studied the psychology of companies and is very well equipped as the Herman Miller Workplace Wellbeing Lead for the entire West area of our country to talk to you about well-being at work. So her presentation today will focus on a positive approach for a prosperous workplace. And a fun fact about Melissa is that she is also a best-selling author on Amazon, and she is in the process of writing her second book right now. So with that, Melissa, I'll turn it over to you. I'm going to mute my own self, turn off the video, and when we get to the end here, we'll field for any questions.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. Good morning, everyone. It is bright and early, so thank you for getting on. I am going to get started. I'm going to close this window because I've learned that it gets in the way of you seeing the slides. So I will continue on, and this presentation was created to help with anxiety about returning to work by providing simple positive mindset tools and insights. And to that point, the American Psychological Association's website is now getting tens of thousands more hits a week than before COVID-19. The APA's deputy CEO and chief scientist stated that this is as much a psychological pandemic as it is a viral one. Then, on June 3rd, the APA declared that we are also in the middle of a racism pandemic. So this 1, 2, 3 punch of the pandemic, loss of jobs, and protest have eroded the psyche of Americans. And we all know that mental stress can lead to a number of physical and financial pains. This is why a positive mindset matters now more than ever. The percentage of U.S. adults who evaluate their lives well enough to be considered thriving has dropped by 46.4%, matching the low point measured in November 2008 during the Great Recession. Furthermore, today's thriving rate has worsened about 3 percentage points since the first half of March and nearly 10 points since the spring of 2019. And this is from a survey done in May of 2020 by Gallup. This quote speaks to the human body, mind, and need to have agency over our world and how the environment can infuse and be infused by feelings of well-being. During a panel discussion hosted by Future Workplace about organizational concerns post-COVID, an HR futurist said, "I feel strongly that the future of work is worker well-being." And I think that's something that we're all seeing just in our day-to-days, even working from home, as many of us still are. Now, most of us use the terms well-being and wellness interchangeably, but there is a distinctive difference. Well-being refers to a more holistic, whole-of-life experience, whereas wellness refers to physical health alone. Well-being is a good feeling condition of existence, and since many of us spend most of our time working, workplace well-being has become a concern for organizations intent on improving their return on investment, which is ROI, as well as their value on investment, VOI. The CDC Centers for Disease Control and Prevention defines well-being as physical well-being, economic well-being, social well-being, development and activity, emotional well-being, psychological well-being, life satisfaction, domain-specific satisfaction, and engaging activities and work. When you look at this chart, what you see here is an outlay of return on investment and the reasons why it's important and the data that you would use to support that from a business perspective, as well as value on investment, and then the same thing there. And value on investment is actually nothing new. It's been around for a little while. It's just now really gaining traction as we begin to see culturally as Americans that all that is not everything that is measured necessarily matters. And there's a lot that can't yet be measured, and yet it still does matter. And so when you look at this, you see the obvious on the return on investment side with your reason for managing and reducing healthcare costs is obviously to get a return on that investment in terms of your human capital. And then the data that would support that would be medical claims, absenteeism, and disability data. Very easy to see, right? But then when we look on the value on investment side, and you guys all know this from experience, if you're looking at things sometimes of how to improve employee satisfaction job satisfaction, for instance, that's a very qualitative question, and you're not always sure that people are answering a self-report survey, for instance, in a standardized way, because what might be satisfying for one and what they may mean when they say this is good can be very different from what someone else says is good. Maybe good for one person actually means great, and for someone else, good means it could be so much better. So that is where value on investment differs, and we're learning how to better qualify it. So now moving into ergonomics, and it matters wherever you work. Within an organization, ergonomics is typically managed by a health and safety team tasked with ensuring that workplace tools, floor plans, and facility conditions are supporting and not damaging employees' physical well-being or health. Wellness is typically managed by a human resources team tasked with ensuring that programs exist to support the individual employee and entire organization in all areas of health, not just physical. Human physiology is the study of how the human body functions, and this includes the mechanical, physical, bioelectrical, and biochemical functions of humans in good health, from organs to the cells of which these organs are composed. The human body consists of many interacting systems of organs, and research shows that employing ergonomics early on yields $17.50 for every $1 invested. So if we look at your body as your single most valuable investment, and we think about the physical, cognitive, and social ergonomics that all either work with or against your well-being every day, I really want to encourage you, not just from a business case perspective, but as a personal case perspective, to consider what $1 you invest every day to yield an exponentially greater outcome later on down the road. So are you eating well? Are you eating often enough? Are you exercising? Are you engaging with people whom you love and respect and who have those feelings for you? These are ways that you can invest very simply into your own business of being and to take care of yourself. Now, cognitive ergonomics is about the brain, or the way people process information. The purpose of cognitive ergonomics is to optimize the fit between human cognition and a particular environment, like the office. Cognitive ergonomics affects the way we think and react to our environment and those around us. And here is just a quick minute, because we don't have a lot of time, but maybe this is something you can do on your own or even with your teams in person or virtually, is to draw a map of your hometown. Do this with your family if you like, or of the neighborhood around where you work, and try to include, and you're going to do this from memory, try to include major streets, side streets, local landmarks, and once you're done, compare that memory map that you just drew to a real map of the area. And ask yourself, how did you do? And see, are you surprised by some of the things that you missed? Forcing yourself to remember the layout of your neighborhood as well as draw and label it helps to activate a variety of areas within your brain. And the act of drawing encourages a seamless integration of semantic, visual, and motor aspects of a memory trace. And then this really does help you to increase your neuroplasticity, which helps to mitigate the effects of aging on the brain. And that can later lead to other sorts of mental deficits. And if you think about a memory map and memory traces, it's your ability to very quickly draw the differences between, say, a tiger and a lion, and being able to recall that very quickly. So it just keeps your brain nice and nimble. Social ergonomics is sometimes also referred to as macroergonomics or organizational ergonomics. And although you might not always be conscious of it, everything around you has an impact on your behavior. That includes things like people, setting, even culture. You actually experience social ergonomics regularly. So if we think about where you live or where you work, or even if some things around you, you guys are in Texas, things are opening up, and you think about the places that you frequent most, if you think about how the more you see people, the more you like them. So if you think about a favorite coffee shop or a bar of yours, you may not always remember the name of the people who work there, but you remember their faces and you have a familiarity with them that allows you to like and therefore trust them more than someone perhaps you've never seen before. And furthermore, perceived pain has been shown to activate in the same areas that the brain, activate the brain in the same areas that physical pain does. So for instance, a little hack is if you're feeling you're someone who suffers a little bit from social anxiety, or say you get nervous when you have to do public speaking, sometimes taking an aspirin can help to ameliorate those feelings of anxiety. And that's an aspirin. But it helps with social anxiety. So there are some things to think about when we're talking about social ergonomics, and that's relationships, proxemics, meaning how closely we stand to one another based on our relationship with them, privacy, and territoriality. Now, this is a very simple social exercise that I like to call compassion for curmudgeons. So even the most curmudgeonly of you on this call, and I know y'all are young, but I know some young curmudgeons, I'm just saying. This exercise is really fun, in that all you have to do is when you're on a conference call or on a regular phone, even in person, simply actively smile when listening. And what you'll notice is that you'll perceive the information you're hearing differently, and you will convey to the speaker a more open tone when responding to that person. And so that the benefits there are that not only do you feel happier and healthier, but that these feelings of happiness help to reduce your heart rate, reduce the effects of pain and stress, and to calm your body overall. And so basically, smiling activates neuropeptides that fight stress by sending the message to your body that you're happy. So dopamine, endorphins, and serotonin, neurotransmitters all associated with pleasure, are released when you smile. So you feel better, and everything about you is better. Your blood pressure decreases, and it also takes fewer muscles to smile than it does to frown. So you're getting a nice exercise for your face. And this is just a really beautiful quote from Maya Angelou, that you may not control all of the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. And that's really pertinent in these times of the 1, 2, 3 punch that we spoke about earlier. And the reason that psychology, and particularly positive psychology, matters so much is that control really only exists in our mind and how we choose to perceive what's going on around us. And positive psychology sometimes gets a bum rap for being a soft approach to psychology, but hey, it really is powerful. And case in point here, some of you might recognize this famous drawing titled My Mother, My Wife, My Mother-in-Law, and it's an optical illusion that was done in 1915 by William Eli Hill. And what this does is that some of you may look at this picture and you might have immediately seen the wife, and some of you might have immediately seen the mother-in-law. But now that you know that both images exist, and you can simply decide which image you want to see at any given time, it's really a great immediate example of how powerful our mind is and how we can all be seeing different things, and what some of us may see first compared to someone else, just based on our own filters and how we're wired and the life circumstances that have helped to inform our point of view today. So positive psychology is a field of psychological theory and research that focuses on the psychological states, individual traits, or character strengths in social institutions that enhance subjective well-being and make life most worth living. Psychological states are contentment and joy. And the three pillars central to this field are positive experiences, positive individual traits, and positive institutions. Now, this exercise is something that I took from Carol Dweck. She's a Ph.D. who wrote a book about growth mindset, and I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with that book. And I took 3 of her exercises and sandwiched them together to call it the Growth Gold Sandwich. And this one is really great, especially for those of you, and I'm willing to bet money that almost all of you are type A. And I know that I am. And so what this is to slow your roll a little bit so that you can really build on and continue the momentum of success. And so what you do is when you complete a goal, whatever this most recent goal is that you've completed, to stop and whomever your core group of people are, celebrate with that group of people what that goal was. Personal, professional, whatever, and celebrate that goal. And it doesn't have to be anything big, just an acknowledgement that, hey, I did this. And then on your own, reflect on that achievement and what that means for you, what that signifies. And then write down your new goal and then start it all over again. So that by you're basically, instead of running on an empty tank, you're stopping at the end of every, few laps in this race that you might be running or whatever analogy you want to use, and you're refueling that tank so that you can continue to go. And by doing this, you are allowing yourself to stay stimulated and motivated and keeping yourself in the momentum going forward. Another great positive psychology exercise that's very simple to do is to count kindness. So keep a log of all the kind acts that you've done in a particular day, even jot them down. And by writing as opposed to typing on your phone, you are activating the tactile experience and motor skills that are with writing. And then that's helping to create new neural pathways in the brain that create a habit and help you to sustain not only those feelings of well-being, but it helps you to habituate basically the things that feel good to you, more so than typing it on a slick screen, just because of the tactile experience there. You can also jot down 3 things that went well for you each day, and then give an explanation of why these things occur. And here's the kicker. That explanation needs to relate back to you so that you can understand, again, going back to a positive mindset and how really our perception is what helps to color the day and how we get it through the day, whether or not we're able to do so in a sense of well-being and positivity. When you bring it back to you, you take ownership and responsibility, and you are the one who's accountable for what happens throughout the day, both the good and the bad, right? And then you can also, if you're interested in understanding what your signature strengths are and looking at positive psychology focuses on what's right with you, whereas traditional psychology tends to come from the perspective of what's wrong with you. So if you're interested in finding out more about what you're naturally good at and building more into those areas, there is a survey called the VIA survey that you can Google, and it's free. And you can see and learn more about your own personal strengths. So what's next in positive? What's next in the workplace? And we've all seen all the predictions and the proclamations. And what we want to focus on here are the possibilities, because, we have a lot of ideas, but no one's 100% sure. And there's a really great paper called the 7 Predictions for the Future of Work. And this was actually written a couple of years ago, but it still rings true today. And that is mastering the work-life balancing act. And with what we've experienced with working from home, it really is a blending act. It's making time for FaceTime, but who knew that would literally mean FaceTime, like the app on iPhones or through Zoom or whatever platform you use. An Amazon approach to staffing, meaning the best people for the best job at the right time on demand, and how that's really, extremely, everything's sped up with this, right? We thought that some of these things were a few years off, and here they are today. A brave new era for client feedback. There's not a lot of room for fluff right now. I know you guys are probably busier than ever, stacking your calls back to back. You're probably finding yourself surprised that you're as exhausted as you are at the end of the day from Zoom fatigue. You're not taking the breaks that you did before because you don't have built-in lunches or commute time. So, you're getting to the point sooner, and you're having to be so much more transparent because we are in a situation where we need to know what's working so we can move in that direction and what's not so that we can cut it loose. Trending toward seeing technology as a good thing. It's keeping us on this call. It's keeping us engaged and employed. Office design on demand, especially now, what we're seeing, and then the decentralized office. So some things to think about, particularly in the roles that you guys play. So what does this all mean? Innovate as a last resort, Charles Eames famously said. And he also said that more horrors are done in the name of innovation than any other. And the designer and his wife and collaborator, Ray Eames, notoriously favored evolution over revolution and iteration over innovation. And so while there are unique challenges going on with the current state of affairs that have undoubtedly heightened the need for innovation, the human needs that must be met, including the deep need for more meaningful connection, has not changed. It has amplified, much to his point. And it is therefore important to stay rooted in our new sense of spirit over stuff while racing forward to create the new stuff that will better support our spirits. The use of healthcare-grade materials, finishes, and cleaning protocols will be adopted throughout the floor plate in all industries, and a return to evidence-based support, services, product, and design rather than anecdotal factoids will be expected. And these will, of course, combine with adherence to physical distancing guidelines along with new protocols set forth as our knowledge of infection, if the infectious disease control grows. And then beyond that, if we think about how for a long time now we've understood the importance of diversity at work and neurodiversity, not only just in terms of staffing and in processes at work, but also in design. So beyond our physicality and the built environments we inhabit, a culture of well-being that includes ergonomic and positive psychology interventions combined to help us each support ourselves and one another, mind, body, and spirit, as we learn how to best work from wherever we are today. This holistic approach, which begins with us as an individual, will help to establish the procedures, best practices, expectations, and accountability that will sustain positive, productive, and healthy workplaces tomorrow. And then to close this, the ultimate measure of a woman is not where he or she stands, or of a man where they stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand at times of challenge and controversy. You guys are young leaders, and I am so excited and honored to be on this call presenting to you and sincerely look forward to what you will do going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa. We really appreciate that. And we wanted to give just a couple of minutes here. I know we're to the tail end here for questions. I do see one in the chat feature here, and please, if you have a question, type it in the chat feature now. The first question is coming from Elias, and it's, what is your biggest concern about people coming back to the workplace?
I think mostly, to be quite honest, I think it's physical. I think it's mental stress. I think that there are a lot of cleaning protocols and procedures that we're doing, and there's the obvious concern with COVID. But we know how much when all people wear masks, how much that minimizes the likelihood of disease transference. But the stress, the mental stress that is going on right now, and then the underlying effects that will have. So the presenting symptoms may not seem so severe, but how that is trickling down into the body in terms of physical and social issues is quite real. And that is something that the APA has really cited, and what more and more organizations are recognizing as a real stress. And also because emotional stress, mental stress is not something that's always so obvious. and it's very hard. And so some organizations are really calling that people who work together really rely on that community of knowing one another and understanding one another's work habits to notice when your colleague just doesn't seem like themselves. And I know it's weird because it's a professional environment and you don't want to overstep. And yet a lot of us live at home alone, or you may have coworkers who are cohabitating, but it's really stressful at home for a variety of reasons. And then there are the fears that are associated with, again, the fear of perhaps you lose your job, or you might get sick, and maybe you care for someone at home who who is at risk health wise. And then the entire thing. Many of us, have family members and people that we love who don't look like us, right? So there's the communication stressors that have come up even within families with everything that we're going through today, and a lot of difficult conversations that are having to be had. And then you put on top of that a work burden, and I don't want to say a work burden because it's a blessing to have work. And yet, some of us may not be able to show up at work the way that we do at home, and vice versa. So that was a very long-winded answer. I hope that.
Thanks, Melissa. I have a personal question for you here that I'm hoping that you can answer quickly. But what would you say to a young leader who, in the midst of everything going on in the world and all the stresses that we're facing, if we're having a really hard time dealing with that, but want to make sure that we're still being effective in our jobs and bringing our best self to work, what short piece of advice would you give to any of us experiencing that?
I'm sorry, tell me the first part again, Ashley. I'm so sorry.
For a young leader who's having a difficult time mentally right now, navigating the stresses that the world is bringing us while also wanting to still be effective in our jobs, do you have a piece of advice there?
Yeah, I say you really have to take a moment to realize that you really can only control your mindset. And I know that sounds really pat, but the less you try to control everything that's going on outside, the more agency you'll feel and the more self-efficacy you'll feel, because you can see when you look at your personal engagement with your immediate environment, you will see a return on that investment more quickly, which will help to increase your positive self-esteem and feelings of self-efficacy, which will then make you feel more positive about the day and to do more. And so whatever that is in your immediate environment, that's something that you can control and take full responsibility of and feel good about and see the changes in every day.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, it's 9:00, everyone, and to be respectful of your time, I know we need to wrap it up. If you have any questions that you didn't feel comfortable typing in the chat box and that you'd like an answer for, please feel free to send an email to any of the folks who are on our Young Leaders Committee. That's Elias, it's Rachel, Kelly, and I, and we will make sure that we get back to you with an answer. And if you have a further question for Melissa, feel free to send that to me directly and I'll facilitate getting that information back to you. Melissa, thank you so much for getting on the line with us at 6:30 a.m. your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And we're really looking forward to seeing you all for our next Motivational Monday 2 weeks from now. And just a quick plug, we do have another Young Leader event this coming Thursday. We're doing a virtual vacation happy hour from 4 to 5 p.m. This is just a casual get-together. You can wear your favorite vacation outfit, whether that's something to go skiing. Well, it might be a little bit hot for that right now, or to the beach, bring a cocktail. And this is just going to be an informal chat with all of us to get to know each other a little bit better. And please feel free to bring a friend with you. They do not have to be a current young leader with Cornet, but we hope that they might consider it eventually. Elias, any last comments?
Yes, I'll add, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Ashley and Kelly, for organizing it. Thank you, Melissa, for your time. And if you do know anyone that is looking to network and get involved with a great organization like Cornet, reach out to any of the people that Ashley mentioned. We're happy to get you signed up and get you involved. We hope that that not having the ability to meet in person is going to create an opportunity for us to be able to network in a new and unique way. We're all having to adapt. And again, I appreciate Ashley, both you and Kelly, for what you've done setting this up. So thank you for everything.
Absolutely. Hope you all have a wonderful week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.